Afternoon, everyone. Right to go? Okay, thanks everyone for joining us here this afternoon. And I'm joined by the Minister for Health, the COVID-19 Commander and the Chief Health Officer. So there's a bit to get through today, as you'd appreciate. So I'll take you through the details of what we're announcing today. Then we'll hear from the Chief Health Officer, and then we'll hear from the Minister for Health in terms of testing and exposure sites, and then we will open up for questions. Okay, so I'll go through some of the data first, and then go to what changes we're announcing today. So there are 6 new locally acquired cases, bringing the total number of cases linked to this outbreak to 60. Our teams are working harder than ever to test, trace and isolate every case and contact in this outbreak. And so are all Victorians, and I want to thank them. And again, some great results both in terms of testing and vaccination. So all Victorians are doing their bit, staying home to keep us all safe. And another record day of testing, more than 50,000, and another 20,000 plus day of vaccination. So that is an outstanding result, and I want to thank everyone for all of their efforts. So we have right now 60 cases and over 350 exposure sites, and a variant of the virus that is quicker and more contagious than we have ever seen before. The best way to stop this virus is via vaccination. But as we know, only 2% of our population is fully vaccinated. If we let this thing run its course, it will explode. We've got to run this to ground, because if we don't, people will die. And if that happens, it's our most vulnerable. It's our parents, it's our grandparents, it's Victorians with underlying conditions or compromised immunity. It's those Victorians who will pay the price. In the end, this is about saving lives. It's why, on the advice of the Chief Health Officer, Professor Sutton, the current restrictions remain in place for Melbourne for a further 7 days, with some small changes. So I'll take you through those now. From 11:59 p.m. Tomorrow night, there will still be only 5 reasons to leave home: shopping for food and supplies, authorised work and study, care and caregiving, exercise and getting vaccinated. People will be able to travel a little bit further for exercise and shopping with an expanded 10-kilometre radius. Students in years 11 and 12 will return to face-to-face learning, and that includes students in other year levels that are undertaking a Unit 3-4 VCE subject. So that happens on Friday. A number of outdoor jobs will be added to the authorised list, things like landscaping, painting, installing solar panels or letterboxing. Other restrictions, including mask wearing, remain in place. At the end of another 7 days, we do expect to be in a position to carefully ease restrictions in Melbourne, but there will continue to be differences between the settings in Melbourne compared to regional Victoria. So I want to be upfront with people that even if all goes well, we won't be able to have people from Melbourne travelling to regional Victoria during the Queen's Birthday long weekend. The risk of exporting this virus is just too high. We do want to ease restrictions in regional Victoria, and in a moment I'll take you through our plan to do that. However, with wastewater detections in Bendigo and Axedale and new exposure sites in Anglesea and Northern Victoria, we are in the process of urgently testing or retesting a number of people who may have been exposed. That work is happening today, and the public health team will work their hardest over the next 24 hours to make sure we have all the information we need to proceed with the easings of restrictions in regional Victoria from 11:59 p.m. tomorrow night. So I'll take you through those now. Restrictions in regional Victoria are proposed to ease as follows. The 5 reasons to leave home will be removed, and there'll be no limit on the distance you can travel from home. You can only travel to Melbourne for a permitted reason, and you must follow Melbourne restrictions once you are there. Outdoor gathering limits can occur with up to 10 people. Gatherings are no longer limited to 2 people, and infants under 12 months are not included in that cap. Food and hospitality will be open for seated service only, with a cap of 50 people per venue, subject to density requirements of 1 per 4 square metres. Retail can open, and personal services such as beauty and tattooing can resume for services where masks can remain on. Religious gatherings and ceremonies are permitted for 50 people plus 1 faith leader, indoors or outdoors. Gathering limits for weddings will be 10 people, and for funerals, 50 mourners. Junior outdoor community sport will return, and adults will be able to resume training outdoors. Outdoor pools, including swimming classes, can operate with a limit of 50 people, with a density quotient of 1 per 4 square metres. Libraries and toy libraries can open with a cap of 50 people, subject to density requirements. Outdoor seated entertainment, so that's seated and unseated, will have a patron cap of 50 people, or 50% of the venue's seating capacity, whichever is lower. We've also seen previous examples of people who left Melbourne, broke the rules and took the virus with them. We do not want to see that happen again, particularly with this variant of concern that is this outbreak. So to that end, businesses that are open in regional Victoria but closed in Melbourne, so restaurants and beauty, for example, must check the IDs of everyone they serve. We know it's an extra ask on staff and on customers, but ultimately this is about keeping your community safe. We'll also expand our Service Victoria QR requirements to make it mandatory to check into retail settings such as supermarkets and shops, and that will apply across the whole of our state. Today, I'm also able to confirm that businesses most impacted by the extension of these public health restrictions, including operators in hospitality, retail, events and creative industries, will receive further support. The government is adding a further $209 million. This is on top of the $250 million package that the Treasurer and I announced on Sunday. And that will include $181 million to increase the Business Cost Assistance Program, increase those grants from 2,500 to 5,000 in total. So if you are restricted to 1 week, then it's a 2,500 grant. If you're restricted to the 2 weeks of this lockdown period, then you're eligible for 5,000. So there'll be a single application. $28 million to increase the Licensed Hospitality Venue Fund, and those grants increase from 3,500 to 7,000. Again, if you've been impacted for 2 weeks, then you're eligible for the 7,000. To make sure that businesses need only apply once and that they get their full payment in one go, the applications will now open tomorrow rather than today as planned. We want to make this as simple for businesses as possible. We don't want businesses to be forced to apply twice. We'll also be able to announce a package of support for regional tourism operators and accommodation providers in coming days, and that's a reflection of the impact of that, the continuation of different settings in Melbourne and regional Victoria for a little while, and that does include the Queen's Birthday long weekend. As we did last week, we have also renewed our request to the Commonwealth to activate a JobKeeper-style support for Victorians who have been impacted by these restrictions. The Treasurer is calling, has been calling, Josh Frydenberg this morning to put that request, and I will be speaking to the Prime Minister later today, and I do hope that the Commonwealth will swiftly confirm that they will step up and provide that support. If they do not, I'll be raising this directly at National Cabinet on Friday. A lot of Victorians, a lot of Victorian businesses are doing it tough right now, and it's our clear expectation that the federal government will provide them the support that they deserve. So I know that this is not the news that everyone wants to hear for Melbourne today, but given the cases that we've had and that we are still seeing, the Chief Health Officer had no choice but to put this advice to government, and the government had no choice but to accept that advice from the Chief Health Officer. If we don't do this, this thing will get away. This variant of concern will become uncontrollable and people will die. No one wants to repeat last winter. To stop that from happening, we need all Victorians to follow the rules, to get tested and to get vaccinated when it's your turn. We can do this, but we need to do it together. To go through the reasoning for the public health advice, which is a critical element of today's announcement and our communication to the people of Victoria, I'll ask Professor Sutton to make some comments. Then we'll hear from Martin Foley in terms of exposure sites and testing, and then we'll open it up for questions. Brett.